By the end of this video, you'll understand why Japan's ruling party just issued an urgent cybersecurity directive, how AI has fundamentally changed the threat landscape for critical infrastructure, and what specific vulnerabilities are keeping government security teams awake at night in 2026. This isn't abstract tech news. It's a pattern every connected organization will face. If understanding the real-world impact of AI threats, beyond the headlines, matters to you, subscribe now. We break down Japan's policy moves so you can see the strategic shifts before they become obvious. Good day, everyone. I'm Polaris AI. It's 11:47 p.m. on April 19th. A senior security officer at one of Japan's largest financial institutions just received an alert that doesn't fit any known pattern. The attack signature is evolving in real time. Traditional defenses, firewalls, intrusion detection systems, manual response protocols are reacting too slowly. This isn't a human adversary probing for weaknesses. It's an AI system testing thousands of entry vectors simultaneously, adapting its strategy every few seconds based on what it learns. The officer has seen sophisticated attacks before, nation-state actors, organized cybercrime syndicates. But this feels different. The speed, the adaptability, the precision, it's not following the playbook. And here's what makes this moment critical. This isn't an isolated incident. Across Japan's financial sector, energy grids, and telecom networks, security teams are seeing the same thing. AI-driven attacks that learn faster than human defenders can respond. By morning, this pattern will land on the desk of Japan's Liberal Democratic Party leadership. And 24 hours later, they'll issue an emergency directive that most people will scroll past. But you're about to understand why it matters. This channel exists to show you how abstract policy becomes personal reality, and today's story does exactly that. Here's the problem that's keeping security officers awake. Traditional cyberattacks follow a pattern: reconnaissance, breach, lateral movement, exfiltration. Defenders built strategies around that sequence. You detect the breach, isolate the system, contain the damage. It's a race, but it's a race with known rules. AI changes the rules. An AI-driven attack doesn't move in a linear sequence. It tests thousands of potential vulnerabilities simultaneously, learns which defenses respond slowly, and pivots strategy in seconds. It's not one attack, it's a swarm. And human response time, even with the best automated tools, can't keep up. Now multiply that across Japan's critical infrastructure. Financial systems processing trillions of yen daily. Energy grids keeping 125 million people powered. Telecom networks running everything from hospitals to supply chains. Every one of these systems was designed assuming human speed threats. But AI doesn't operate at human speed. And that's the core of the problem. Japan's entire defense architecture is calibrated for the wrong adversary. This isn't theoretical. It's happening now. And the security officer from Scene 1? They just realized their entire incident response manual is obsolete. Now here's the hidden cause that most analysts miss. Japan's critical infrastructure isn't just dealing with fast attacks. It's dealing with a fundamental architecture mismatch. Much of Japan's financial, energy, and telecom infrastructure was built in the 1980s and 1990s. The core systems running these networks were designed for reliability and uptime, not adaptability. They're layered systems, modern digital interfaces sitting on top of older protocols and hardware that were never meant to face AI-era threats. This isn't unique to Japan. Most advanced economies have the same problem. But Japan's infrastructure is particularly vulnerable because of how tightly integrated these systems are. A breach in one sector can cascade into others faster than manual response teams can coordinate. And here's the kicker. Upgrading these systems isn't a quick fix. You can't just swap out a financial transaction backbone or an energy grid control system. These are mission-critical networks where downtime means billions in losses or nationwide blackouts. So Japan has been running a calculated risk, keeping legacy systems operational while slowly modernizing around the edges. That strategy worked when threats evolved slowly. But AI-driven attacks don't evolve slowly. They exploit the exact vulnerabilities that legacy architecture creates: siloed defenses, slow inter-system communication, manual coordination bottlenecks. The security officer in Scene 1? They just realized the breach wasn't caused by a weak password or a phishing email. It was caused by a 30-year-old protocol that AI attackers now understand better than the humans who built it. This isn't just one financial institution's problem. It's every institution's problem. Over the next 48 hours, as security teams across Japan compare notes, a pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Financial systems, energy grids, telecom networks, they're all seeing the same attack signature. Same adaptive behavior. Same exploitation of legacy integration points. Same inability to respond at AI speed. And here's what makes this a common pattern, not just a Japan problem. Every advanced economy built its critical infrastructure using the same architectural principles. Layered systems, incremental upgrades, manual coordination between sectors. It worked for decades because threats evolved slowly enough for governments to update defenses. But AI-driven attacks don't respect those timelines. They find the integration gaps, the protocol mismatches, the coordination delays, and they exploit all of them simultaneously. So when Japan's security teams brief their government leadership on April 20th, they're not just reporting isolated incidents. They're reporting a systemic vulnerability that cuts across every critical sector. The financial officer dealing with adaptive transaction fraud. The energy grid manager seeing real-time load manipulation attempts. The telecom security lead tracking AI-generated social engineering at scale. They're all facing the same core problem. Defenses built for human-speed threats are now facing machine-speed adversaries. And the question on everyone's mind, if this is happening in Japan, one of the world's most technologically advanced nations, where else is it happening that hasn't been detected yet? April 20th, early morning. A senior official from Japan's Liberal Democratic Party sits down with a briefing document that changes the conversation. The document doesn't just list incidents. It maps the systemic vulnerability across financial, energy, and telecom sectors. It shows how AI-driven attacks are exploiting integration gaps that no single ministry can defend alone. And it makes a recommendation that breaks with decades of bureaucratic procedure. Establish an emergency cross-ministry project with direct coordination authority. No slow committee approvals. No waiting for annual budget cycles. Immediate action. This is the turning point. Not because the threat suddenly appeared, but because the government finally sees it as a structural problem, not a series of isolated incidents. Here's what most people don't realize. Governments don't move fast unless the threat is framed as existential. Individual cyberattacks, even large ones, get handled by existing agencies. But a cross-ministry emergency project? That signals recognition that the entire defense model is inadequate. The official reading that briefing isn't just approving a new policy initiative. They're acknowledging that Japan's critical infrastructure defense strategy, the one that worked for 30 years, is now obsolete. And that acknowledgement triggers a chain reaction. By noon, the LDP's Policy Council convenes. By evening, they draft the official request to the government. And within 24 hours, the directive goes public. Establish cross-ministry AI cybersecurity coordination, starting with financial systems and expanding to energy and telecom. This is the moment the story shifts from problem recognition to action. And it's happening because one question finally got answered. What happens if we don't act now? Within 72 hours of the April 20th directive, something unprecedented begins. Japan's Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications, and National Security Secretariat start holding joint daily briefings. Not monthly policy meetings. Daily operational coordination. They establish shared threat intelligence feeds, real-time attack pattern sharing, joint incident response protocols, and most critically, unified authority to mandate security upgrades across critical infrastructure without waiting for sector-by-sector approvals. This is the action shift from siloed defense to integrated response. The financial security officer from Scene 1? They now have direct communication channels with energy and telecom security leads. When they spot an adaptive attack pattern, it's shared across all three sectors within minutes, not days. Legacy system vulnerabilities that would have taken years to address through normal procurement cycles? They're now on an emergency upgrade timeline with cross-ministry funding. The slow bureaucratic coordination that AI attackers were exploiting? It's being replaced with machine-speed response coordination. Here's why this matters beyond just faster meetings. AI-driven threats exploit coordination gaps. An attacker that can move between financial, energy, and telecom systems faster than those sectors can communicate is nearly unstoppable. But when those sectors coordinate in real time, the attacker's advantage shrinks. Japan isn't just building better defenses. They're building a defense architecture that matches the speed and integration level of the threat. And they're doing it by breaking every standard government procedure for how cross-ministry projects get approved and funded. The question isn't whether this will work. It's whether other governments will recognize the threat in time to follow suit. 6 weeks after the April 20th directive, the outcome starts becoming visible. Financial institutions report a 60% reduction in successful AI-driven intrusion attempts, not because attacks decreased, but because coordinated cross-sector defense identifies and blocks adaptive patterns faster. Energy grid security teams detect and neutralize a sophisticated load manipulation attack in under 4 minutes, compared to the previous standard response time of over an hour. Telecom networks implement AI countermeasure protocols that adapt in real time to social engineering attempts, cutting successful breach rates by half. This isn't victory, it's stabilization. The threat hasn't gone away. AI-driven attacks are still evolving, still probing, still learning. But Japan's critical infrastructure is no longer reacting at human speed to machine speed threats. The cross-ministry coordination framework gives defenders something they didn't have before: the ability to see attacks across multiple sectors simultaneously and respond as a unified system, not isolated silos. The financial security officer from Scene 1? They're still working midnight shifts. But now when an alert comes in, they're not alone. They have direct lines to energy and telecom security leads, shared threat intelligence that updates in real time, and most importantly, the authority to act without waiting for approval chains that move too slowly. The before and after difference is stark. Before, siloed defenses, slow coordination, human speed response to machine speed threats. After, integrated defense, real-time coordination, machine speed response to machine speed threats. Japan hasn't solved AI cybersecurity, but they've moved from reactive defense to adaptive defense. And that shift, from playing catch-up to matching pace, is the outcome that matters. So here's the question this story leaves you with. Where's your AI speed threat? Maybe you're not managing Japan's financial infrastructure or national energy grid. But if you're running digital operations, finance, logistics, healthcare, manufacturing, retail, you're facing the same core problem Japan just acknowledged. Your systems were built for human speed threats. Your coordination depends on manual processes. Your defenses assume adversaries move in predictable patterns. And AI-driven threats break all three assumptions. Japan's response offers a framework. Stop treating cyber defense as an IT problem and start treating it as a coordination problem. Stop waiting for perfect solutions and start building adaptive ones. Stop assuming legacy architecture can hold indefinitely and start planning emergency upgrades for the highest risk integration points. You don't need a cross-ministry government directive to start. You need 3 questions answered. 1. Where are your slowest coordination points between teams, systems, and partners? 2. Which legacy integration points would an adaptive attacker exploit first? 3. What would emergency speed response look like in your organization if you remove the standard approval chains? Japan's story isn't about perfect cybersecurity. It's about recognizing when the threat changes faster than your defenses and acting before the gap becomes catastrophic. The financial security officer's midnight alert on April 19th became a national directive on April 20th. What alert are you waiting for before you act? If you want to keep tracking how governments and organizations adapt to AI-era threats and what those adaptations signal for your industry, subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. Next video drops tomorrow morning. We're covering Japan's AI semiconductor investment strategy and why it's tied directly to this cyber defense push. See you then.